In the darkest days of the Second World War, two brilliant minds raced against time and each other. Their goal? The most destructive force mankind has ever known, the atomic bomb. On one side, J. Robert Oppenheimer, the American theoretical physicist leading the Manhattan Project. On the other side, Werner Heisenberg, the German quantum mechanics pioneer heading Nazi Germany's nuclear weapon project. Two men, two ideologies, one devastating weapon. Their stories have been told separately, but today we delve into the details of their parallel journeys, their triumphs, their failures, and the moral dilemmas that haunted them. And speaking of Oppenheimer, this July 2023, the world will witness his life and struggles on the big screen in the highly anticipated movie Oppenheimer. While we don't have specific details about the movie as of now, we can expect a riveting portrayal of the man who's often called the father of the atomic bomb. This is Oppenheimer versus Heisenberg, the race of the atomic bomb. Stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting content. After World War I, Germany's economy was in ruins. Many young Germans, like Werner Heisenberg, were devastated by the country's defeat. Heisenberg was a patriotic person who strongly believed in Germany's need to recover and become strong again. He devoted himself to a new scientific field called quantum physics, which deals with the behavior of atoms and strange concepts like particles disappearing and reappearing in different places. Electrons, for example, can exist in two places at the same time. Heisenberg published a paper called the uncertainty principle, which explained the limits of our knowledge about subatomic particle behavior. This paper had a profound impact on the understanding of quantum physics. In 1933, Heisenberg received the Nobel Prize, becoming one of the youngest winners ever. At the same time, a new political party, the National Socialists, was rising to power in Germany. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Heisenberg's work had caught the attention of another young physicist. Oppenheimer, a college professor from a well-to-do Jewish immigrant family, has big ambitions and dreams of leaving his mark on the world. He's highly intelligent and capable, and his interest in physics is ignited when he learns about quantum mechanics and Heisenberg's work. Oppenheimer sees the subatomic world as a new frontier full of possibilities, especially when he hears about a German team claiming to have split the uranium atom. Initially skeptical, Oppenheimer decides to recreate the experiment with his own team, and they witness the truth of it. The process of nuclear reactions releases significantly more energy than chemical reactions, up to 50 million times more. This discovery suggests the potential to create an immensely powerful weapon. Oppenheimer and others are fascinated by this revelation, but they're aware that the concept of building a nuclear bomb is no longer just theoretical. Hitler has turned Germany into a formidable power and is expanding his control over Europe. Many German scientists have already left the country, but Heisenberg chooses to stay. While Heisenberg is a patriot, he's not a Nazi, leading to a significant internal conflict for him. After a year of questioning, the Nazis finally accept Heisenberg's loyalty. In 1939, Heisenberg travels to the United States to meet with brilliant nuclear physicists. He attends a conference just before the outbreak of the Second World War in Europe. The conference focuses on a fascinating discovery called nuclear fission. It brings together the world's most renowned physicists. However, with the Nazis rapidly advancing through Europe, the meeting becomes more than just a scientific gathering. During this event, Oppenheimer and Heisenberg have a conversation. Oppenheimer expresses his admiration for Heisenberg and acknowledges how Heisenberg's work has influenced his own research. Oppenheimer attempted to convince Heisenberg to join the American side and help save the world from Hitler. This angered Heisenberg, and they went their separate ways because he was not willing to betray his patriotism for Germany. By pledging his loyalty to Adolf Hitler, Heisenberg became one of the most dangerous individuals on Earth. The discovery of harnessing enormous energy from the atomic nucleus sparked the idea of building an incredibly destructive nuclear weapon. The Nazis urged Heisenberg to accelerate the process, but he explained that it was not as simple as it seemed, as he had only derived the theoretical principle. This frustrated the Nazis, who demanded concrete progress on the development of the superbomb. Consequently, the Nazis sponsored the project, and Heisenberg began working on it without delay. In America, the nuclear program is just beginning when Albert Einstein, the world's most famous physicist, writes a letter to President Roosevelt. Einstein warns about Germany's brilliant physicists developing a superweapon capable of destroying entire cities. President Roosevelt takes this seriously. In October 1941, he starts a highly confidential plan. A shipment of 1,250 tons of uranium ore is sent from the Belgian Congo to New York City, where nuclear scientists are already working to test it. This operation becomes known as the Manhattan Project. The only missing piece is a renowned scientist to lead the project. Robert Oppenheimer, a well-paid professor at the University of California, Berkeley, is enjoying the benefits of academia. However, despite his comfortable life, Oppenheimer desires more. He's ambitious and has always yearned to be recognized as a true genius, someone capable of accomplishing great things. Oppenheimer is determined to achieve that level of accomplishment. Colonel Leslie Groves, an Army officer, is searching for a scientific leader to oversee the Manhattan Project. Groves has difficulty getting along with most scientists due to his gruff nature and struggles to imagine how he'll manage a group of theoretical physicists. He needs someone who will listen and follow instructions. When Groves meets with Oppenheimer, Oppenheimer explains that they will require large amounts of uranium ore to be mined and processed in factories on a large scale. The uranium needs to be refined to a high degree. Additionally, they must figure out how to achieve and control a self-sustained chain reaction. Oppenheimer, although he has never managed anything more complex than a seminar, impresses Groves with his clear understanding of what needs to be done to create an atomic bomb. The Americans are particularly worried that the Germans might succeed first, considering their access to uranium and the presence of Heisenberg. The Nazis have already seized 1,200 tons of uranium from Belgium. The key to building a bomb lies in splitting those uranium atoms to initiate an uncontrolled chain reaction. Each individual reaction does not release much energy, but when these reactions are linked together, the energy output grows exponentially. If a large number of uranium atoms could be split simultaneously, it would unleash a tremendous amount of energy capable of destroying an entire city. However, this idea remains a theory until Heisenberg can prove it through experimentation. To do so, he constructs a small nuclear reactor called a pile. Heisenberg sets up an experiment where a neutron source is surrounded by layers of heavy water and uranium. If he can detect more neutrons than he initially started with, it would prove that he has split the nucleus of multiple atoms, a crucial step in creating an atomic chain reaction. This experiment is important because before proceeding with the extensive industrial process of extracting the rare part of natural uranium that can cause an explosion, it's necessary to demonstrate that a chain reaction is possible. Heisenberg's experiments marks a beginning, and at this point the only certainty is that the Nazis are progressing towards building an atomic bomb, while the Americans are just beginning their efforts. By late 1942, as Europe suffers under the oppressive control of the Nazis, the Americans can only speculate about Germany's nuclear ambitions. However, they are determined to outpace the Germans in developing the bomb. General Leslie Groves and his newly recruited scientist Robert Oppenheimer understand the need for a more secluded and more secure location than Manhattan. Oppenheimer desires a place that offers privacy and isolation. General Groves wanted a place where they could keep the project completely secret by surrounding it with barbed wire fences and isolating everyone from the outside world. Oppenheimer suggests an isolated town called Los Alamos in New Mexico, which he has known since his childhood. Oppenheimer realizes that uranium alone will not be sufficient, so he shifts his focus to another radioactive element called plutonium. Like uranium, plutonium can be produced in a nuclear reactor, but it presents challenges in terms of detonation. Solving this problem is essential, as without a solution, their plutonium bomb will not work. In 1942, Werner Heisenberg became the first scientist to generate an excess of neutrons in a nuclear reactor. But this accomplishment was achieved with only a small number of atoms. His current objective is to achieve a massive chain reaction, which is not only difficult but also dangerous. Unfortunately, during one of his experiments, Heisenberg's new reactor explodes. He and his team narrowly escape death, but his laboratory is destroyed. When news of this incident reaches the United States, there's a new fear that the Nazis are closer than ever to developing an atomic bomb. At that time, there was no satellites, and the Americans had few spies in Germany. Although the information was limited, it was enough to make everyone extremely anxious. The pressure on Oppenheimer intensifies as the Americans find a way to produce plutonium for the atomic bomb. However, they still need to find a triggering mechanism to detonate it. The situation at Los Alamos becomes disastrous, leading Oppenheimer to contemplate resigning as director. He feels depressed because he cannot see how they can effectively utilize plutonium. Before the war, Oppenheimer had been studying black holes, and he realizes that when a star collapses under gravity, it can result in a massive supernova explosion and the formulation of a black hole. This revelation leads to the idea of implosion, where a solid ball of plutonium is surrounded by high explosives such as TNT. The goal is to synchronize the detonation of all the explosives simultaneously, which proves to be highly challenging. Despite the difficulties, the scientists at Los Alamos achieve a groundbreaking breakthrough, but they can only hope it's not too late. In the secretive environment of the Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer and his team focus on the implosion problem, reorganizing the entire Los Alamos laboratory and enlisting experts from other wartime projects. They develop new calculation methods, making it the primary problem they need to solve. With his laboratory destroyed, Heisenberg is summoned to Berlin as the war takes a turn for the worse for the Germans. The pressure on Heisenberg becomes even more intense. In December 1944, he travels to neutral Switzerland to give a lecture to a small group of colleagues at a physics seminar. The Americans see this as an opportunity to prevent the Nazis from obtaining the atomic bomb. During World War II, there was no CIA, but there was a predecessor organization that primarily had a military focus. One of its operatives was Moe Berg, an inquisitive man with a unique background. Berg was a former professional baseball player for the Boston Red Sox and also worked as a spy. He spoke fluent German. His mission was to determine if Heisenberg was making progress on building a bomb, and if so, he was instructed to kill him. However, Berg left the situation with the impression that the Germans didn't have any hidden plans or strategies in place. Berg does not shoot Heisenberg as he feels it's unnecessary. Berg's instincts prove to be correct. Despite initially splitting uranium atoms, the accident at Heisenberg's lab set him back significantly, and he makes little progress thereafter. As the spring of 1945 arrives, Nazi Germany faces severe difficulties in the war. Berlin is under heavy bombing, and the Soviets are approaching. Heisenberg continues his experiments in southern Germany, but the Nazis never allocate the extensive resources required to develop an atomic bomb. Hitler didn't trust or take his scientists seriously, leading to a lack of progress. The German program was disadvantaged from the beginning. On May 3, 1945, Heisenberg, along with Germany's top scientists, is captured by the Allied forces. His work for the Nazis comes to an end. However, as one of the world's leading physicists, Heisenberg is considered a valuable asset. Eventually, he and several other German scientists are sent to a manor house in England for detention and monitoring to determine their knowledge about nuclear weapons. The Allies are relieved to discover that the Nazis were still years away from developing an atomic bomb. So, that was the race of the atomic bomb. We could go further and explain how Oppenheimer went on with the successful testing, but since the movie's just around the corner, we won't spoil it for you. Christopher Nolan, the genius, will surely deliver all the details of the upcoming movie, which will be released on the 21st of July this year. So go ahead and enjoy the movie. This is DefenseZilla, signing off. See ya.